Sharon Gai helps organizations understand how to adopt AI into their workflows to increase productivity and efficiency. Sharon is an international keynote speaker on AI and innovation. She's the former head of global key accounts at Alibaba and general manager at a billion-dollar e-commerce unicorn. In her tenure, she has advised brands and heads of state in crafting their digital strategy with programmatic marketing and AI. She's been the keynote speaker at TEDx, Singularity University, UBS, Nestle, Deloitte, and many other organizations. She is the author of the book, E-Commerce Reimagined. Sharon is also a global shaper in the World Economic Forum. Sharon has an honors bachelor's degree in international development from McGill and a master's in information management from Columbia University. Her methodology, called Culture Fluid, has won audiences of various ages and backgrounds. Today we have Sharon Guy, and I want to welcome you, Sharon, to the Fixed Ops Mastermind.
Thanks so much, Dave. Great to chat with you in the beginning about car parts and
Yes,
e-commerce and things.
absolutely. We had a great conversation that unfortunately you audience did not get to participate in because I was not recording it, but we will cover a bunch of that as we move on through today. If you could take a couple of minutes and just introduce people to who you are, and then we'll get straight into the wisdom.
Sure. I'm an AI author and expert. I'm a keynote speaker mostly right now, where I go to a lot of different conferences and I tell people about the advantages of using AI in their business.
Excellent. And so our show we do in three segments. The three segments are AI and the future of retail, e-commerce innovation, and retail strategy. And so we'll start at that segment one, AI and the future of retail. And if you could share with us first, you talk about culture fluid. If you could talk about what that means and how it fits into today's world.
Yeah, so culture fluid is a concept that I developed when I was working at Alibaba for about now maybe 4 years ago. But the idea is to be very nimble and adaptable. Alibaba was a company that was very nimble from its start. At first, it was when it grew from nothing. eBay was the largest player at the time in 1999, and that was the dominant sort of platform where people went to buy everything and anything. And Alibaba saw an opportunity where they really catapulted really quickly and grew in size to now they're almost the same. But depending on what type of GMV marker you're measuring, but sometimes they're doing larger sales than what Amazon is doing, and
Wow.
that's really hard to fathom. But if you think about where all of our products come from, and so there are hundreds of thousands of Amazon sellers. You might have heard of the term Amazon FBA before.
Mhm.
They all have to purchase their products from somewhere, and Alibaba.com is most likely the place that they'll start to purchase that product,
Yeah.
bring that into the US, bring that into the UK, wherever Amazon is selling, and mark up that product. And
Yeah.
so, because although, different administrations is trying to change where things are made and manufactured,
Sure.
come January, at the moment, most products are still made in China, in
Mhm.
Chinese factories. And so, what a lot of these Amazon sellers are doing is purchasing from these factories directly and then marking them up, adjusting the products. A lot of the we have a lot of people from the automotive industry listening. A lot of car parts are also produced in China as well.
Mhm.
Car accessories,
Yeah.
small little SKUs. And that's why you've seen sort of the rise in platforms like Temu, if you've heard of that,
Yep.
TMU, Shein. And they're all companies that's riding the wave of Chinese manufactured goods. And so retail has really changed because of it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think in the last month, I pay attention to a lot of the retail conglomerates that are shutting down. So Party City just declared
Yep.
bankruptcy and closed. A lot of dollar stores are in decline, and a lot of that is because of these type of platforms like the Temus, like the Sheins, like the Alibaba.coms, where we are just much more comfortable in purchasing online. This
Hmm.
year was the first year for Black Friday, where normally on the day of Black Friday, you'd see a huge rise in foot traffic in a lot of these malls around the US.
Yeah.
This was the first year where if you went to the mall during Black Friday, depending on the city that you were in, some of them were pretty deserted, or it was just not as high as expectations.
Right.
And a lot of the reason for that is people have really gotten comfortable shopping online on e-commerce. So on the flip side of that, and from the e-commerce growth rates for this Black Friday, it was monumental. It was record numbers,
Hmm.
and I think that change will only continue.
Yeah.
And AI accelerates a lot of that when we look at the retail industry as a whole.
Yeah. And so how will AI transform that retail landscape beyond basic automation, which I think is what a lot of people look at right now.
So a lot of retail brands are trying to personalize, cater towards that customer. I've
Mhm.
worked with companies where they do a lot of what they call client profiling. So you see that in a bit more upscale stores, maybe a Michael Kors and above
Yeah.
type of brand, where you walk into the store and they know exactly who you are just from seeing you as an old previous customer, or if you signed into a store signage and gave them
Yep.
your name, your previous order history pops up on these sales associates' devices. Now you'll see a lot of I just recently went to Jill Sander, which is a pretty premium fashion brand. Every single sales associate there had a little iPhone with an app that they would sort of look at, and when they knew my name, they instantly searched it and saw all of my previous order history, so
Wow.
that they know what other pieces to recommend you because they know that you have already bought
Mhm.
this particular blazer in a certain color, and now the matching pant set is now in your size, and they'll recommend that to you in store. So we'll probably see a lot more of that coming in that retail space, because these retail brands don't want to lose these physical stores.
Mhm.
That a lot of these, and this is also very dependent on the customer, where when you see an older customer, they like to go in store. They like to shake hands. They like to see that sales
Right.
associate that they've met with for tons of years, and just say, "Hey, what's up?
Yep.
How was Christmas?" And so offline locations, when we talk about brands, is still a pretty precious place of point of sale.
Mhm.
Even though online is growing a lot, you still want to create that magical customer experience when someone is stepping foot in your physical store.
Yeah, and that's something that dealerships can learn from. And typically dealerships are slow to adopt things. They wait to see if it's successful somewhere else, but before they start to adopt it. But that ability to really know your customer, when they come in the store, and you almost have an advantage at the dealership, right? Because they're coming in with a real identifying piece, which is their car, right? So if you can identify that car, you can identify the person within it, and then understand what their history is, when they like to make appointments, what time of day they want to be in there, whether they need a ride every time they come in, or all of those types of things, where you could really use that to make better personal connections with the customers. And there's some powerful tools that will start emerging in automotive soon.
When I worked at Alibaba, I worked inside this business unit called Tmall, which is similar to an Amazon of the US. And we would have a ton of car brands, whether it was Ford, Toyota, Tesla, opening up Tmall stores. So opening up online stores within that e-commerce marketplace. So
Mm.
imagine it, I mean, I don't know if this exists on Amazon where Tesla opens their own branded store on Amazon. Maybe it already exists. Or
I
if
don't think that exists,
no.
but Hyundai and Amazon just have a partnership to for people to supposedly purchase a Hyundai through Amazon. I don't know if you can actually complete an entire purchase there, but you can
Yeah.
start it.
Yeah, and that's I think the whole goal of why these car brands saw Tmall as such a great place to open a store. It's all that traffic, all that online, all those online eyeballs that are already there
Mhm.
shopping for makeup and grocery items that
Yeah.
they also have car needs too.
Mhm.
So they didn't, while they didn't, sell the complete car online, they
Right.
did drive a lot of in-store traffic. So whenever there was like a new model that would come out, they would
Yeah.
put them in these beautiful posters of
Mhm.
these celebrities to just be part of that, and that's where you get a lot of those clicks.
Right.
And then the UX, the buttons would be designed really well so that you are clicking, oh, would you be interested in this? Would you be interested in test driving this? Well, we're
Mhm.
located at this location, and this is the time where you can come in and try it out. And so a lot of people discovered those new models via those online stores because
Yeah.
dealerships, they're located in one location, and so unless you
Right.
are literally driving past it because you live in that neighborhood, you're probably
Mhm.
going to miss it. You probably don't even know its existence. But the way that these car brands worked out this online backend is it made their cars available
Mhm.
to this big group of online shoppers. So they are still there. I think the cars category grew exponentially
Mm.
because of this new way of attracting people. Um, so it's interesting to see that strategy potentially play out in the US too.
Yeah, absolutely, and there were a lot of people there's still a lot of people who are watching carefully what happens with this Hyundai and Amazon um, collaboration. Because in the U.S. at least, there's um, this franchise model for the dealerships where if you're going to buy a new Ford, a new Chevy, whatever it is, you're going to do it through a dealership, right? You can't go to an online store and purchase a new car. It has to go through a franchise dealership. That Amazon angle, it gives a different road to the sale for a customer, and whether that holds up through franchise laws or whatever is yet to be seen. Um, what emerging technologies do you think businesses should be preparing for? As far as AI stuff go, I know I mentioned to you when we were talking before. I saw your video that you had posted about AI agents, and how that is really coming into being now.
Yeah. So, and we were also earlier talking about SEMA, the SEMA
Yeah.
show, where
Hmm.
I'm going to be speaking to the Women's Leaders Forum in March in Orlando. I talk a lot about how small businesses can use AI. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're someone that works in sales or marketing, you should definitely be using AI to your advantage. Generative AI is sort of what's taken the spotlight since November 2022 when ChatGPT came out. A lot of people are using it to write everything from emails to briefs to creating PowerPoint decks. to analyzing survey data of maybe a product that they've sold online, and now you have thousands of customer reviews, but maybe some of these reviews people are mentioning for a specific gap that this product has, and you don't have the time to read through those thousands of
Sure.
reviews. You plop it all in something like ChatGPT, and it gives you a cleaner look at what these people are actually saying about your product.
Hmm.
So a lot of e-commerce managers are using that. The agents world is something that we'll see um, very much accelerate this year. So when we talk, or when I go into these AI keynotes, I talk about how AI is happening in 5 waves. So wave one was predictive analytics, where that was the Target era, when there's a story about how Target's product managers were able to guess which of their customers was already pregnant. These teenage girls were already pregnant before their fathers knew that they were pregnant. So they were
Wow.
sending these coupons for pregnant mothers to these houses, and these fathers are like, why are you encouraging
Boy.
my daughters to become pregnant? That caused a lot of PR and controversy. But later on, those girls were indeed became pregnant mothers. So how did
Mm,
Target know that before the family members even did?
yeah.
It's from a lot of their shopping history. And so
Mhm.
that was wave one, and we call that predictive analytics. So a lot of the machine learning algorithms that's running underneath Facebook, running within Netflix, Instagram, TikTok. It's a pretty mature technology by now. And so wave two, we've seen that in 2023, 2024 with what we call co-pilot products. So now if you're using Zoom, for instance, maybe you'll see that AI companion button if you're a paid Zoom
Mhm.
user. It's able to summarize a lot of those meeting notes. If you are a user of Microsoft 365, you have access to Copilot, which is now in a Word document. You don't have to start from a blank page. If you're about to write something, you can just prompt
Yeah.
Microsoft Word to say, I'm about to write this newsletter update and what's happening in my dealership this month, or I want to write a Happy New Year's message to all of my customers, and it's writing that for you. So that was wave two. So wave three is what we call agents, and that's where we have a lot small these AI tools becoming sort of semi-autonomous workers
Mhm.
that can be productive and add to the productivity of your team. So Salesforce, when they did their big conference last year, their CEO came on and showed a demo of Agent Force, where they have a Slack chat, and there are a lot of human workers in that Slack chat talking about ordering something, and then you have a lot of agents also in that Slack chat working right alongside the human
Mm,
workers to process the order, to then give tracking, to then calculate inventory. A lot of the more manual work is then handed over to those agents,
mhm.
and maybe what SKUs to buy, or in what quantity to buy. So some of the more strategic decisions is still taken on by the human, but all of
Yeah.
the order processing and everything else that happens post sale, that's taken on by agents.
Mm,
So that's one use case,
yeah.
and we're going to see a lot of other use cases of agents in sales and marketing. It's very contextual of what your problem is, but in a lot of the keynotes that I do, I share a lot of those agent examples.
Yeah, that's it's exciting to think about those things, and you think about the amount of times when you're communicating back and forth within the company, and somebody asks for something, you ask for something, right? And it gets missed. But the AI agents aren't going to miss those things, right? They're going to make sure that that those are caught and acted on or followed up on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what sometimes is frustrating within a team where we're all human workers is sometimes passive aggression could seep in where, you make a request to someone and they're kind of slightly ignoring it because they have other more pressing things going on, and you're like checking in again, whereas the XYZ I asked for, we've all been in those situations. But when you're talking to an agent or a completely something AI, they don't have that other
Yeah.
list of pressing things to do.
Right.
Yeah, maybe you have to wait for a couple of seconds for them to generate an answer for you, but
Hmm.
they're a lot less strategic because they don't have that extra nerve to be strategically thinking about things. They're
Sure.
a lot less political at work when you're working with various teams, and sometimes you're stepping on somebody else's toes or vice versa, and that gets sensitive. We don't have that problem with agents.
Right.
So I say that sometimes, it's good to have a couple of agents working alongside you. It serves as a glue almost, or a lubricant
Hmm.
within a team.
Yeah, that's. I mean, sometimes feelings get in the way of things, right? So sometimes it's great to have that, and you have to. You don't have to, but you have those trade offs with those AI agents and having things like that involved, right? You have the trade off of it's not going to strategically think. It's not necessarily going to prioritize. To realize that it needs to prioritize something, but on the other hand, it's also not going to ignore a task, whether inadvertently or not. It's not going to ignore a task that needs to be done either.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of dealerships that have online part stores. We talked about this before we started recording, and at OEM Interactive, we're driving traffic and improving conversions on those sites. And so, drawing from your Alibaba experience, what do you think makes Asian e-commerce markets different and unique? And what do you think the U.S. markets could learn from them?
Yeah, I wrote a whole book about this called E-commerce Reimagined. So I also talk a lot about this in my keynotes. It's not that Asian e-commerce or e-commerce platforms are so much better because because of the transfer of knowledge or whatnot was better. It's simply because it's just so much more competitive in that market, and so when there's a lot of players, when there's a lot of brands, first of all, there's just a lot more consumers. So if we look at the two largest consumer markets in the world, US, China, US is about 330 million people in population. So that's
Hmm.
330 million people's needs, different needs in food, needs in beauty, needs in clothing and car parts and all of that.
Hmm.
And then on the other side in China, you have 1.4 billion people, so that's about 3 or 4x that time. So
Hmm.
that's 1.4 billion people's of needs and preferences and choices, and multiply that with all the different categories like food and car parts. So that's where you see the difference. So the number of competitors are just so much is higher there. And that's why they have to get a lot more innovative. They have to find more hacks, more tricks, more ways to attract eyeballs. You have to get more creative. Maybe it's something visual, so it has to be more visually appealing. Because
Hmm.
if they don't do that, they just don't have that customer and they die out as a business. So they're
Yeah.
forced to innovate. And when you have something like an e-commerce platform, where an platform is the thing that consolidates all the competitors together, you're now all competing in one domain. You really now have to your competitors is one button click away from this current product that you're selling. And so the things are just very different from a design perspective, from a ease of use perspective, and sometimes what you're also delivering as well. You have
Hmm.
to be competitive in all fronts.
Interesting. And so, how do you think traditional retailers can uh, pivot successfully when using AI to augment workloads?
Um, Pivots. So what I say for a lot of knowledge workers is looking at that, what is AI good at and what am I good at framework. So I always have a lot of people do this exercise where you look at your own role, and your one role is you can divide out into multiple different tasks, and maybe you're going to be cutting up your one role into 50 or 100 different tasks. It's important to do this exercise where you pull out certain tasks that you're doing, where you know you're doing every single day, or it's very, very repetitive, or it's very, very manual, it's very calculative,
Yeah.
perhaps. And those are the tasks that most likely AI will take on in the future. Then there are some tasks where, there's certain fires you have to put out, or there's certain new projects you have to react to. There's certain customers that you're now talking to. And sometimes when we come into these larger meetings, we always want someone senior, more senior on the team to tag along to somebody a bit more junior. There's a reason for that. It's because that more senior person knows and has that context in how to deal and treat certain business partners, how to negotiate in certain rooms. So that's the part that most likely will stay human. Um, and when you have found those tools or tasks that you can start to automate, proactively go out and find some of those tools. Since the release of ChatGPT, there's over 10,000 tools that's been released. Everything
Wow.
from productivity, writing, marketing, sales, design, and new things are being developed every single day in this space.
Hmm.
And so most likely, if you're thinking of a very specific thing that you want AI to take over with your work, probably it's already been developed. You just don't know about it. But the key there is just to hunt down and look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. So I go through a lot of those tools on a regular basis in my newsletter, and in my website. So I make sure that I'm providing some of those very usable tools to my audience on a month to month basis. But there's also a lot that I don't know, because it's being developed at a very fast pace.
It's such a speed. I've learned so much in the few months of reading your newsletter, and some of the things that the tools that you've put in there. Um, I would have never even thought would exist.
Oh,
And
cool.
yet and yet they're out there and working. Um, Sharon, what do you see as some common mistakes that people make as they try to get into the AI transformation of their business?
I think so prompting, I think, is really a pretty tough skill to master. I think we're often giving up when we give them a 3, 4, 5 word question, and the
Mhm.
answer that we get is just very subpar.
Yeah,
And then you would say, "Oh, I could have written a better thing than that," and I probably usually do, and you probably usually can, and thank God that you can, because that's how you can hold on to your job as a human worker.
right.
But I think it's whatever you put in is whatever you get out. So if you're putting into a AI system pretty cursory terms, or kind of it's very general, what you get out will also be very general. So, the biggest mistake is, I think people are not that specific with the things that they're asking.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're not asking follow-up questions either and digging deeper. But I think that's also a muscle. We often have taken a lot of things for granted, where we kind of just see an answer, nod to the answer, and say, okay, yep, moving on. It's sort of a natural way for us humans to navigate the world. We're not going to be deeply digging into every single minor detail. Then, how can our lives move on? So
Right.
it's a balance, but it's also Yeah, I would say it's sort of like a muscle that we don't really know how to work on just yet. And that's something that when we're using these AI tools for the first time, we're going to sort of write it off as it doesn't work that well. So I'm just going to move on.
Yeah, I feel like my prompts have now become blog posts.
Sometimes they have to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, like when I first started using it, like you just play around with it, and then you read some stuff that says you've got to give it that direction of acting as a, or you are as a, right, and then so you add that sentence in there, but then there's other things to keep adding in there, and other things, and it feels like at times you prompt it to do something, and you've literally written 500 words to prompt it to do something.
That's true. That's true. So it's important to gauge too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's pretty contextual as to what tasks you want to spend that
Hmm.
500 word time on, and which
Exactly.
ones you, yeah, would rather maybe go to a search engine.
Right. So sometimes it's you're better off to do that, right? If you can just find the answer that way.
Mhm.
And so that takes us into segment three, our last segment, which is retail strategy. And so the legacy thinking, right? The we've always done it this way type of thinking. How do you see that impacting retail innovation and adoption of AI?
I think doing what has always worked is just pretty natural for humans and companies to run their
Hmm.
businesses. If I had a certain revenue target, I hit that revenue target. Well, these were the things that I did to hit that target. I'm just going to do the same thing next year.
Right.
It's pretty natural for all of us to do that. I think when we do that, though, the thing that we're forgetting is what are the opportunities that I missed out on? What are the things I didn't try that maybe I could have done better?
Hmm.
Maybe I could have really killed that target and blew it out of the water if I tried something else. And that's something that I think a lot of not just retailers, but all of us, it's a reminder for us to remember to do.
Yeah. How do you how do you think people could use like a chat gpt to help them with that thinking, with that thinking of not just, okay, yes, I hit my targets this year by doing x, y, and z. How could I hit my targets or do better next year doing something completely different?
By asking the question, what did I miss? So sometimes I'm in some of these threads where I'm prompting and I'm asking it to complete certain things. And I'm pretty satisfied now by the answer that it's already given me.
Hmm.
But by asking that extra question, what did I miss in my interaction with you? What did I not ask you? What did I forget to think about? And then looking at that second answer, it really puts things into perspective of that there's more than meets the eye.
Yeah, I love that. We all fall into that confirmation bias, if you will, right? Where we think we think we have the answer, but I'm going to add that into my workflow for things of what did I miss here? What am I not seeing?
Hmm.
And so, final question: uh, what's your outlook on AI, the use of AI in the future? And I'm not going to say 5 or 10 years, because man, oh man, it's like every hour feels like 10 years with AI stuff.
Yeah, with in AI years,
Yeah.
like we have dog years, which is per 7 years, I think, of human life.
Yeah.
Then there's AI years, which is like the um what am I looking forward to? I think just the things that's coming out of the industry. I mean, very recently, and I'm going to write about this pretty soon, is AGI that Sam Altman has said that we've now achieved, or not that we've achieved it, but he's pivoting the vision of his company. So before
Hmm.
OpenAI's grand vision was to achieve AGI, and that was its ultimate goal. And now they're looking at what they call super intelligence, or ASI, and
Wow.
that's a type of AI system that is not on par to human intelligence, but much more superior than human and than what humans are capable of. And now they've pegged that as the company's new vision.
Wow.
Um, I mean, I don't think I've fully been able to, I think I'm just scratching the surface of what AGI can do for us, let alone that next level. So, I'm definitely excited to see what other, superpower tools, they're going to be introducing in maybe 2026, 27. This is way out in the future. But I think there's a path for us to get there.
Yeah. That's cool. And it's funny to hear 26, 27 being way out in the future. Right?
That's
That's
true. It's just next year. The next
it's
n- the next chi or not the next New Year's Eve, it's what is it?
yeah.
360 days away.
Yeah, it's coming quickly.
Yeah.
Um, Sharon, it's been a great conversation. Any final thoughts for the audience before we go?
I think it's important to start learning about AI, testing on AI. I have a website, SharonGai.com, that you can check out to subscribe to, where you can read some of the things that I have looked at and I have evaluated. I'm coming out with a course as well very soon, where it's a crash course of what you can do with AI. So you can be on the lookout for that.
Excellent.
And yeah, I would just say happy testing and experimenting, everyone.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. And to everybody out there, we will see you next week.